Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry for the delay in the videos. I've just been shooting a lot of footage, just haven't had a lot of time to go in and actually do any editing, so apologies for the late uploads. However, we are now on the couch bed that is going into the trailer, and this is going to be a bed slat design, couch slat design, so kind of like a pull out. And you know what, it's just easier, let me just show you what it is in SketchUp. So this is what we have. Basically, there's a base, and you'll have one cushion across the base, and then one that's sitting upright, so basically like a couch when it's in the day bed mode. And then we will pull it out. The front piece, which has these slats attached to it, it'll pull out, and then both the cushions will lay down into a full-size bed. So the frame itself is made out of 2x2s, and then the slats I was using were 1x4. So we'll get into the build. I'll give you a couple of little secrets I did. That's my dog shaking it off over there. Sorry about that. But yeah, so that's basically what we're about to start with. So let's just get into it. So the base and the front piece are all made out of 2x2s. And originally I was going to go and just buy the 2x2 furring strips that you would typically find at Home Depot or Lowe's. But honestly, the quality of them were absolutely terrible, and none of them were straight. And it was just going to wind up being more of a mess. So what I wound up doing is just getting some 8-foot 2x4s and then just stripped them right down the middle in order to create some custom 2x2s. And once all the custom cuts were made, I just started laying out the individual pieces, measured them up, and started getting ready to screw them together. All of the joints countersunk drilled first with a pilot hole, and then went back, glued, and used 3-inch deck screws in order to connect all the pieces together. A total of 3 of these were made. 2 of them will be for the base, and they will be attached together just with 2 cross members on the bottom and 2 cross members on the top, as you see there. And then of course just some supports in the middle in order to support any kind of weight. All of these had identical dimensions, so basically it was just rinse and repeat for the 3 rectangles there, and that kind of gives you an idea of how it pulls out. And once I got the base all screwed together, I went ahead and threw it in the trailer just to check my measurements and make sure that it's where I want to go to. My original idea was to use 1x3 slats, but I then changed my mind and went with 1x4. And that was probably just, in my mind, I was thinking just a little extra support since all those are going to be separated, and pulled apart. So only every other board would be on the base and then of course on the piece that pulls out. And I had this wonderful idea that sounded good, but it did not perform well. But basically I laid these 1x4s up, tried to match them all end to end, and then clamp them down to the frame so that I can go back and sand all of the edges, because I want to put a little bit of a lip on them so they'll be able to ride up and over the supports. But yeah, this kind of failed miserably, and I wound up having to go back and actually sand each one of them one by one. So like I said, great ideas, but yeah, instead I wound up cutting them at an angle with the circular saw, and then went back and actually sanded down the bottom ledge there so it was a little bit more rounded, and it worked out really good. And once the boards were all sanded and cut properly and I had the proper edges on them, I then went through to each board and went ahead and did some countersink holes for the screw heads to sit down in so they don't catch on any of the fabrics from your bedclothes or from the actual cushions that are going to be laying on top of it. And what I've done is I've taken the front face that's used for the slide out, and I've clamped it to the base of the bed itself. And here I'm just putting the proper spacing between the 1x4s from the side to the side there. And I'm not screwing these on both ends. I'm only screwing these on one side there, which is what the pullout is. So there's only 2 screws that are going to be there to allow it to be able to slide in and out over the base, and then the boards that are actually permanently attached to the base, they will be screwed on each end So after completing the front here, I'm just going to go along the back edge and go ahead and screw the every other board down. So again, not the ones that are attached to the front slide, but every other one that should be permanently attached. That's what's actually being screwed down to the back side of the frame. And when it's all said and done, this is basically how it's going to operate. It just slides in, slides out. Now, it is a little wobbly, of course, but that's because there needs to be a couple more supports that are placed in there, along with some guide rails. So let's get into those. There is going to be a little bit of side-to-side play here, and that's because of the gaps that are between the other boards. And so basically on each end, I'm putting a guide rail for the pull-out part in order to, when it slides back in, to keep it from going off the ends or sliding 2 inches one way or the other. I use several washers between the screws and the frame, and the reason being is to have just a little bit of an offset to allow the wood to not bind up, so probably about not much more than 1/4 of an inch. And I did this both on the sides to allow a little bit of movement, and I also did it on the 1x4s that attached to the base itself, where they ride up onto the slide out there. So you can see there's just a slight bit of elevation there, and that's to keep the wood from binding up when it slides in and out. Now, I knew I was going to have a problem with those slats dropping down when you pull the slide out from the base. And you'll see I've got a piece of 2x2 there right now that's just being clamped into place for measurement purposes. But basically what I did is did another 1x4 and screwed it to the permanent slats on the base itself. And this is basically just a ramp to allow the slats to slide back in and over the back rail of the base so that it would seat properly. But before I can permanently attach it, I do need to finish up this front cabinet, so I went ahead and cut out the front facing there and painted it, got it ready for the couch to be permanently installed. And just like that, through the magic of video, I now have a slide out sofa, couch, bed, thingy, whatever you want to call it. It works perfect. Full-size bed, full-size couch. More to come.